discussed last time at length. And then the last thing we talked about, what about Hergish?
Like idea of that Elyon to feel Elokut is that Elyon.
To feel the course is what? I'm sorry.
Ergish of Elokut is the idea of Das Elyon.
Das Elyon? Oh. No. There are, no, Das Elyon is where you feel exclusively Elokus, you don't feel anything else.
Only Elokut.
Only Elokus.
So it's a dark of Tzaddikim.
Right, it's a different type of thing. All right, as I said, we're going to start from the line that begins with Hergish. It's about a third from the top of the page, 176. You have the place, everybody? In this Inyan, what the Rebbe is explaining to us is not just a methodology, a method how you come, a method in Avodas Hashem. He's explaining how the human being functions. Because a human being, a person, is very versatile. You know what versatile means? Has very different variations, different ways how he functions. Like we always point out, every possibility that exists in the world exists in the person. A person can act without any feeling for what he's doing, completely externally. And on the other hand, he can act in a way that engrosses and embraces him completely. That the action comes almost automatically. So this is a complete opposites and everything in between. It is possible for a person to act in a manner where I'm supposed to do this. Fine, so I'm doing it. And this is also a piseichel, right? The seichel tells him, are you supposed to do this? But we can readily see that when one acts on that basis, he himself is not very much involved in it. He just knows this is what he's supposed to do. And at this level, in this mode of action, he's not going to have very great involvement and sense and feeling what it is that he is doing. And therefore, it's impossible, for instance, to say to a person, you're supposed to have Abba V'yira. You're supposed to have Abba V'yira does not make Abba V'yira. You can act according to it, but you're not going to have the Abba V'yira, Yiras Hashem. And yet we say that we can arouse Abba V'yira through the process of his boinus, through the process of seichel. So how does the seichel do it? When I say you're supposed to have Abba V'yira, that doesn't reverberate, that doesn't bring anything. Abba V'yira is an experience, is a feeling. It's not an action. And you can't have it by demand, on demand. So, for this, the Rebbe brings in that there is a completely different aspect in the person that's called hergish. And in general, the senior one hergish, that we're going to discuss it, but the union from hergish means just as we readily understand, we can readily see that if I move this book, I move this sefer, the sefer does not sense that it moves because it doesn't have hergish, even though it moves. Besides that, it doesn't activate its movement. It's moving because I'm making it move. But it doesn't even feel that it's moving. In the person, there is a neshama. And there's all the koiches and nefesh. And one of these koiches is called das, and it's also called hergish. Which means that not only does a person know what to do and how to do it, he has a feel for what it has to be done. And he has the feel for what he's doing. So that when he does what he had decided to do, at that point, the deed comes almost automatically, because it's not just that he's dictating and telling himself move, but it comes. His whole person senses and feels this movement. He is fully and completely involved in this. That's what hergish. In other words, the life of the person, the koich HaNefesh and all the koiches, they could be functioning on an external level, and they can be actually functioning on a very deep internal level, in such a way that when a person does something, he also is, the deed and himself are not two separate things. Because he has a hergish, he feels that this is the right deed. And this is how he acts. Even though this deed was defined, you understand, defined by seichel, but it was defined as seichel, and he was misboinen in it, and he went into it in such a degree that now he is margish deed. And therefore the deed and him becomes one thing. This is reminiscent of the story of the Alter Rebbe, which we mentioned many times, that when they came to arrest the Alter Rebbe, and they came into the room and they saw the Alter Rebbe in his film, and they ran away. They ran away. They closed the door, they went away. So then the Alter Rebbe said that this is what the Gemara says, you understand what I said, right, everybody? So then they asked the Alter Rebbe, but how come they don't get scared when I'm in film? So the Alter Rebbe said, it doesn't say in the Mishnah, Eilut film she'al horosh. It says, Eilut film she'birosh. When the film become one with your head, then it brings out Yireh.
Similar to the idea with, I think that Abba Shab says about a panemi is completely laid into what it is that he's occupied in the moment.
Right. Again, we're not going to put everything in the same basket. There are aspects in everything. Right now, I want to be able to understand the Sinyan the Rebbe puts in a lot of effort into explaining to us the Sinyan of Hergish, which means in addition to all the koiches that we have, Seichel and Midas, these koiches are functioning within a living human being who not only knows what the Seichel tells him, but he's margish the Seichel. This Hergish gives the Seichel a completely different dimension and a different reality. He actually experiences the Seichel, experiences the truth of the Seichel. This is the Hergish. This is what the Rebbe is going to explain now. Okay, at the end of this line, the Hina Yonoreim Bechush. Behold, we can observe, we can see Bechush. Bechush means by sense. We sense in the person. Ba'odom lamata. We can sense when we observe a person, he lamata. In other words, in the natural functioning of the human being. Shelefi shehu margish esatzmi v'chiyusei ma'oid. That according to the degree to which he is margish esatzmi, he feels himself and he feels his chayes. And he feels his chayes very much. What does this mean? He feels his chayes. He's alive. There is a difference between being alive and being aware that you're alive. Being margish the same thing. He feels his chayes. Hazai, then, if in fact he has this hergish, then midoisav mispoilas betachlis ha hispoilas. His midois become aroused with the greatest strength. Tachlis means with the extreme. Not very smart, this guy. Chutzpah. I had your voice, I had no problem. Okay. I don't understand. This is a more modern and newer unit, and it's more noisy than the old one. Huh? Yeah. So you should get in the. I remember when we had a very old refrigerator, like 50 years old. When we first came to Amazon, and it works perfectly. You can hardly hear it. Okay. So whispering. So we had a refrigerator guy in the house. He says, "Wow, they don't make it like this anymore."
Probably they make them more efficient, not necessarily quieter. This was probably more efficient than the last one, not necessarily quieter.
But it's useless if it's noisy.
I don't think it was designed for a room. I think it's designed to be attached to a whole heating room.
You mean to be outside or something like that? Going through a pipe? No. It's not like this. All right. So when a person feels his chayus, so then his midos are aroused, can be aroused very. The tachlis means the extreme and the ultimate level of arousal. Lehoy bihispoilus, to love with great excitement. Mashiyehav, what he loves. Velisnoi bihispoilus mashiyisno, and then rather despise with great excitement that which naturally he hates. Yoiser, and in that state the person would have a greater expression of these qualities, mimi she'einoi margesh esatzme kol kach, of one who does not feel himself so much. You know, there is a phenomenon of children who don't have a normal home, children who were taken in, let's say, because of orphanages or things like that, and who don't have a support system. You would look at this child, you would think, oh, this child is so mature because he never cries. He gets hurt and never complains. The truth is that it's not an expression of immaturity. It's an expression of lack of feeling for his chayes. And therefore, he takes for granted, so I fell, so I hurt, so no big deal. But, there's a phenomenon like this. A child falls down. Talking about a normal situation. A child falls down, playing in the dining room, falls down and hurts himself. He gets up like nothing happened. Walks up to the kitchen, sees the mommy, and starts crying. This is a reality. This is mamash a real thing. He fell down, nothing happened. He got up, went to his mommy, and that's when he starts crying. What happened? When he fell down and his mommy wasn't there, he didn't feel his own chshivas, his own life so much, his hergish. His mommy, the warmth of his mommy, gave him a feel for his own chayas, and he started feeling this pain. Without that, he didn't feel it. I mean, physically he felt it, but it wasn't a hergish, an intellectual hergish that he said, oh, it's not supposed to be. It's not supposed to be, but he's not margish that it's not supposed to be. And therefore he's not crying, there's no midas. So that the midas depend not on the logic and the rationale of the seichel, but the midas depend on the hergish. To what extent one is margish his chayas.
That's dependent on the seichel. That's dependent on the seichel.
No, that's dependent on das. This is called. It's all part of. It is part of moichin, but it's in moichin itself. It's that part which is called das. One second. Let me finish this. Seichel is what tells you, look, you are alive. If anybody has to tell you that you are alive, then it's a question whether you are alive or not. Because being alive is not something that one has to be told. He is margish. It's not a question of with an answer. What is this hergish? Did you acquire this hergish by proof? By being convinced of it? Not at all. This hergish is a self-contained hergish. Because we have the moyach hadas, and in das we have a sense. We sense the chayus, not knowledge. We sense it.
But why is it that a child is not a bar das? And we've used the example earlier. Remember that a child is the example of katnus b'seichel, right? So he falls. He's not margish tzatmai. So therefore, he has to see his mom in order that he should, through her, he should experience the idea that he's chashiv. He's something which is worth crying over. An adult he's a bar seichel. He's a bar das. So he doesn't need anyone else to let him know. Meaning, it seems like that which enables a person to feel himself is the fact that he's got seichel and das is a part of that seichel. Because a child who's katnus, he doesn't have I mean, I have to imagine when it says here a person loves with the tachlis of love and hates the tachlis of love. It doesn't mean like a child that screams or anything. I mean, it's a perfection of the meter that he loves which is appropriate to love. He hates which is appropriate to hate. So that's directly connected to seichel, isn't it? A child doesn't possess that. A child there's no seichel there in order that he should feel himself, and by that also determine what medias are appropriate and what measure they're appropriate.
No. There's two separate things. Completely different things. The hergish of himself facilitates, makes midas possible. What midas are going to be, that depends on his seichel. What he appreciates, what he has identified as valuable.
Why is it all children don't have that hergish? It takes for a person to grow and to become and to
what hergish? As far as what is valuable?
The hergish of himself. You said that the das is dependent on how much a person feels himself.
Yeah.
So all children exhibit the same thing. They lack seichel, and therefore they lack a hergish of themselves.
That's what I'm saying to you. There's two separate levels. It's true. They lack both, seichel and hergish. Like for instance, a child is fearless, can do things that can bring havoc. As we show, create very big problems for himself or for others. He's not margish. He doesn't have the das to feel the significance of what does it mean I broke a hand. I broke a hand, I'll put on a cast and it'll be over. Doesn't take it seriously. because he doesn't have das.
So you're saying the lack of hergish comes from a lack of das and not a lack of seichel?
Mm-hmm.
But is it possible to have seichel and not das, or vice versa?
Yep.
'Cause it seems
Yes. A big professor has a lot of seichel, has very little das.
When we say seichel, aren't we talking about seichel like Paltiel, not just like someone, like we always say that the person who knows how to do math is not, we're not talking about seichel when we talk about seichel, not math and not geology. We're talking about...
So if you're talking about the real seichel really is dependent on das. Because the moyach hadas, even though the seder is, the order is a chochma is the highest, and then there's bina and das, but that's only in the koiches hakluyim. Really, between chochma and higher than chochma and rotzin, there is also das that connects chochma with the rotzin. So really, that also depends on das. Somebody who has focused, let's say in the world, people, let's say, they have these automobile and races, car races. People get killed on these tracks all the time. All the time. They become martyrs. They're part of the game. My father died in the crash. So what's the big deal? He died in the crash also, on this track. And it's part of his pride. His father raced the son. He was killed on the track. Can you imagine what kind of accomplishment that is? What greatness? What stupidity?
It's a nefesh on NASCAR.
Huh?
Meiser nefesh on NASCAR.
It's not Meiser Nefesh. He doesn't have a nefesh. He doesn't have a das. He doesn't appreciate what life is. He's focused on the glory of winning. He doesn't even appreciate what living. Doesn't know what human life is. His mama,
This is what it means he doesn't feel himself.
He doesn't feel himself. It's not about das at all. His whole thing, who defined him? Who am I? What people say about me. If I have big trophy, that's who I am. He's completely devoid of life.
What?
1 second.
No, he also.
Yeah.
Is this like the idea of when we were learning previously, like about intrinsic value, like someone that lives life and he's always trying to find out why is life worth something. So he's like this guy, like what else I can do that life is valuable or something. So that's not. So what we're saying is someone that feels life as life, not like he needs to and look for things.
That's right. He's margish esatzmai, margish chiyusei. A person bardadas das. And as a result of das, then there could be important things, less important things, and everything else. Okay. Or the similar difference is, you have the place?
Where is it? I lost it.
It's in the middle of the line that begins with ma.
Okay.
It's like 3 lines below Hesh, yeah?
Yeah.
So a person who feels himself, his highest very much, he'll be spoiled in his midas. Okay? In other words, even if this is something that he knows that he loves, but he will not, if he doesn't feel his highest, he's not going to be that excited about it. Or similarly, regarding some other person. Afilu oy havoy verei oy, even if it's his good friend, somebody that he loves a lot and his great friend. Ein kol kach margish tomit azulos. He does not feel constantly his ulosoi, this other person. Umesalik daitoi mimenu. And he can actually distract his mind from him. Because he is not really connected to him, b'das, in hergish. V'lochein lo yispoil kol kach al inyonov. And thus, for this reason, because he can detach himself from him, which means he doesn't really feel him, therefore it's possible for him not to be that affected, not excited about the inyonim pertaining to this other person. K'moi al inyonei atzmoi. Like on inyonim that pertain to himself. She'einoi mesalek daito me'atzmus. Where he never distracts himself, takes himself away from his own interests and his own self. And thus we also could see, now what we can observe and sense, that even in some things that are pertaining to himself, if occasionally he should remove for a moment the feel of himself kolkach to such a great extent, if his feeling of himself is not so focused, k'moi, as for example, kasher torut beize inyan godoil, when he is preoccupied in some very great inyan, shemesulok oz, but at that time he is removed meinyone hargoshas atzmusi. He is removed from the phenomenon of feeling himself. Lo yispoil oz kol kach. Then, during that time, he will not be so affected midovor shehu neged retzeni, from something that is opposes him, that he doesn't like. Neged retzeni. V'chein, similarly, lo yehav kol kach dovo shehu l'tevos. He will not be so attracted for something that is for his benefit, because he is now not in touch, fully in touch with himself. He's involved in something else. Nimtza. Thus it comes out, from this observation itself, it comes out, Hiker ha-hispoilus ha-midos, that the principle of hispoilus of midos, tolui bedas, actually depends on das, shuhu ha-hergish, which is the hergish, the feel, the sense, the feeling himself. Ve'ha-hergish, and this feeling, tolui be his kashrus. That depends on his kashrus, on being focused, being attached. Kisha-makushar nafshe bozeh, that when he is connected, he is attached and focused on the inyan, harehu margish zois. So then he feels it. Okay, this is the next phenomenon, the union of his kashrus. Which is also a phenomenal thing. Just like we said about We said about the hergish. That hergish goes way beyond the koyach haseichel. Koyach. A koyach means I know. Now, when I say I know, that means that in my seichel it's known. But there is two people. There is two entities. There is I, and there is no. I know with the koyach haseichel. So the fact that my koyach haseichel knows it, and I'm aware that my koyach haseichel knows it, that does not necessarily affect me. I can know it, and it doesn't affect me. Why? Because I don't have the hergish for it. I don't have the das. Das is when it becomes my knowledge. Where it's no longer I know. It's me. This knowledge and me become one. This is a das. That's a hergish.
So, well, according to that, once you get das in something, you could never forget about it. Like, if I, one in your life, you get real das about it, it would shouldn't ever go away.
I know, Moshe, that's not necessarily so. But definitely, if you had a hergish, it'll go deeper and it'll last longer. But no, it's possible to distract yourself even from something that became your hergish. But that's a separate thing. Let's first understand the union here. How does hergish come about? So, again, what is the question? How does hergish come about? If I touch the table, so I feel that I'm touching a table. That is the chush hamishush. It's one of the senses. In this aspect of this sense, there are two things. There is the physical experience that I'm touching something. And then there is the hergish that there is something real over here. Let's put it this way. If I touch, so I have, it's inevitable that I will feel this thing. As a result of the fact that I feel it, then if I say, since I feel that there's something here, so I'm not going to walk into it because I feel there's something here. These two aspects, the fact that I feel it and the fact that I'm not going to walk into it, there could be two separate decisions, two separate experiences. It could be that I feel something and that tells me that there's something here. Since there's something here, I won't be able to go through it and I might as well go around it. And then there is another way that this can function. That my feeling this subject and my knowing that I'm not going this way are one and the same thing. Are not two separate things. Because this feel reverberates, it's felt in my seichel right away. It's not just my hand feeling, but my seichel relates to that feeling. I connect to that touch. This is called hergish. So even though these are two separate decisions, right? The fact that I feel it physically, And the fact that since there is something there, therefore, I have to make a decision of a seichel that I don't go there. But this decision of the seichel, as I said, it could be just a decision, an external decision. In order that it should be a personal decision, I have to be connected. I have to connect to this touch. I have to focus in on this. So that this touch, I'm feeling this stable, is not merely a piece of information, but I actually focus in, oh, there is something there. Am I reaching you guys? No?
It's like you know it through and through. It's like
The difference.
Shabbos, you cannot light the light because it's like it's yours. You're not light in Shabbos. You're making break the borders. It's your feelings. Not because you understand. It's like
Yeah, well, the difference between knowing something because my seichel tells me or my hand tells me, and knowing something because I personally know. How that, and all knowledge comes from being told about it. Like, I don't know with closed eyes that there's a table over here. I have to be told. I have to find out. So therefore, since I have to find out about it, therefore my knowledge of it and myself will always be two separate entities. And from that perspective, it would mean that if I don't walk into the table, that was a separate calculation, and I made a rational calculation. Since there's a table over there, definitely you can't walk that way. Okay? But that would be a real phenomenon, a real problem, if this is the way we were thinking. Then every step we take, we would have to calculate. Can I go through this table or can I not? And just because I see it, just because it's there, does not automatically tell me I can walk that way. I have to figure it out. But that's not how it happens. What happens is that this knowledge, this piece of information that there is a table here, becomes beyond seichel, beyond knowledge. It becomes my personal orientation. It becomes something that as if I would know it without being told. I'm margish this. Even though I got the information from outside, from the experience, from touching, but it becomes so real as if I wasn't told that. I personally know this. How does this happen? Okay, now you with me so far?
I understand what you're trying to say. I just don't. It doesn't really. I get it.
Okay.
I understand you.
The reason that you do not, you don't, so to speak, you can't focus in on this point is because you never realize to distinguish between the hergish and the knowledge. It was always a spontaneous thing. Oh, there's something there. Of course you're not going to walk into it. But logically, you have to understand these are two separate aspects, two separate moments in a person's mind. Since that this table is a separate table from you, therefore, first you have to find out that it's there. Then you have to deduce from this, or induce from this, that since it's there, I can walk through it. That had to happen. And yet, you do not think of it this way. You don't have the experience that it's two separate steps.
But why does it mean that that's not the way it's happening?
What?
Why is the fact that you don't feel that that's what's actually happening? Why does that mean that that's not actually the case? Why can it actually be the case that every time you see a table, right now, how old the person is already becoming brain digits intelligence. So therefore, it happens with that Kamela, but nevertheless, every time a person sees a table, some part of his brain is active, the table don't walk through. Okay, you're looking around the room, you say, okay, here's the path to go. You're looking at the wall on this side, you know how much you have to pass it.
So I'm explaining to you that it doesn't even happen that way. There isn't a separate decision of not walking through the table. The very fact that the table itself, that itself decides that you don't walk in, not two separate things. And that's the question, how come that is the case? How can the table decide for you whether you should walk through it or not? You have to make a decision for yourself.
Your mind says, go left, go right.
It doesn't.
You never seen someone that's going in a particular direction and something in the way, and they kind of go back to what they're doing. One way, they stumble. They're trying to decide. One person says, go left, go right.
Excuse me.
It's quick enough, so they go right.
Excuse me. But you've never seen somebody walk into the table first, and then said, oh, excuse me. Oh, I didn't know I can walk through you. That you've never seen. That was the table didn't have to stop. It was automatic. And there was no need for him to learn and figure out that you can't walk through the table. My point is that the piece of information that there is a table here is a piece of information that has nothing to do with me at all. It's a table. The fact that on that basis I make a decision that I can walk this way, I have to walk this way, that should be a separate step. And we see b'chush, that's what Rebbe says, that it's not the case. And the reason that this is not the case is because we are mekushim, we connect to this seichel, to this knowledge. So that this knowledge and us are not two separate entities. And this knowledge is reflected in us automatically. As if I and the table are one thing. Or the entire environment are one thing. All this, we're not aware of it because it was never brought out. But these are all different koiches, different qualities in the person. A child will walk right into the table. Yeah, of course. Will walk into the table and get hurt, and go to his mommy and get caressed.
Child actually walked into the table.
I mean,
The person walked into the table. Child is that. Maybe by accident or on around the table, just walk right into it.
It does happen. He may figure out that he shouldn't, or he may see that he can't, but that he shouldn't walk into it to start with. That requires already a das. He has to connect to this. What? Of course they do. Of course they do. They do, and then they jump into us.
Either a person or an animal, whatever age
You've never seen him actually hit the wall. Okay. But you saw when his actions of avoiding the wall wasn't smooth and automatic. There was a decision being made. That you saw. The person is absent-minded. He sees the thing in front of him. He's absent. He's not focused in. Very simply, even you can experience yourself. You're not focused in on the environment. You're not focused in. You can walk, and you can walk straight into the table. I mean, the time you walk into the table, you stop yourself. But you saw the table before. You're never going to say, I didn't see it. Of course you saw the table. So how come you walked into it? Because you weren't makusha. You didn't focus in. So the fact that you saw it did not automatically reflect itself in your mind as to, oh, therefore, what am I supposed to do with it? Because you and the table are two separate things. When you're fully focused, it's never going to happen. And it's not going to happen because you're aware and you make a husband and it's automatic because you want one thing to go.
Fully focused, you're watching whatever we're talking about, and you don't have to think, don't walk into it.
Exactly.
It doesn't take any thought process.
That's right. There is no second thought. Because you on the table on one thing. That's what they have does. Your knowledge becomes by you not like a seichelic knowledge, but as a personal knowledge. It becomes by you like a personal knowledge, even as if you've always known it. As if you yourself put the table down there. Nobody has to tell you that it's there because you yourself put it down there. This is called Moya Hadas, called Herdish. It's a completely different degree of connection than we understand, than we think of. They think everything works by knowledge. It's not true. You know, nowadays we have a new element that gives us an ability to understand what Chassidus talks about. They have the senses. You know, the electronic senses. The electronic sensor, like if a car comes too close to the curb, it begins to make a noise. Because it senses, but it makes a noise because it's actually feeling it. You understand? It's actually, the sensor sends out some kind of a wave and it gets back, and I know it's something there. Not because it connects to it. The human being doesn't know it the same way. He doesn't relate to it in the same way. It's not, and this is why, you see, this is why we have a difficulty in understanding it, because we think the human being works the same way like a sensor. But it absolutely doesn't. Human being, does not work like a sensor. Human being actually accepts and relates to the reality of the world. It's real to him. It's not just deflecting him or pulling him or pushing him like an animal, because he has Moya Hadas. And this is because of these discussions. The union of discussions and the union of hergish both belong to the Meir Hadas, like the Alter Rebbe explains.
These are not faculties, but rather descriptions of what Das really is, right?
Yeah.
I don't understand because what would be a way to relate to this? Because it seems almost like there's some. If you wouldn't see that there is something in front of you, you wouldn't think. Like, for example, if I come to the room and I see everything, and I close my eyes, I'm gonna come against something. Like, I cannot. Like, there is something that you see things and you know where they are, and it's not like I think, yeah, I see it, I go this way. Of course, it's not consciously, but even subconsciously, there's no heshbon that I do that happens very fast. The person knows where the things are, and he knows how to, like, is it completely automatic? Like, I can't.
No. Regardless, yes, he makes a cheshbon and all that, but the very fact that he's making a cheshbon is automatic. He doesn't have to tell himself, if you walk there, you're gonna walk into a table, because it's real to him.
So what he tells himself.
This is a very special quality in the same seichel. It's called hergish. Because of this quality of hergish, you have to go. Because of this quality of hergish, as we're going to learn, which it is possible to actually be misboin in the union of the key, and it should become real to such an extent that it should bring him a midas of Abba Paltiel. How can seichel bring about midas of Abba Paltiel? The answer is because seichel is not alone. Seichel alone cannot bring about midas of Abba Paltiel. But because he can focus in and be miskasher to it, it becomes a personal knowledge rather than an academic knowledge, then it can actually bring about this midas.
What would really be happening when we come into a room and we see tables? What would be like a perspective to understand what really goes on inside? You see the room, you don't say like, oh, there's a table here.
I'll tell you something. Project how an electronic sensor would there are these sensors. I've seen the robots that can walk around this room without hitting anything.
Mm-hmm.
Project how that works.
Throw something
And see if see what would happen if a human being had to do the same thing. What kind of experience would that be? You understand? Oy Baruch Oy Long.
Are you ready for some proclamation?